I kicked my cousin out of my wedding after he cornered my 19 female sister-in-law, tried to pull off her hijab, and terrified her. Now my parents are calling me cruel for overreacting and for bringing up old family wounds when I told my aunt why her son is the reason her own daughter went no contact. 2 weeks ago, I got married. I should still be floating on the high of that day, remembering my dress, the vows, the music, the dancing, the way my husband looked at me like I was his whole world. But instead, I feel like I'm living in the wreckage of a bomb I set off myself. I can't stop replaying everything that happened, and the way my family has turned it against me makes me wonder if maybe I really am the monster they say I am. I'm 28. My husband is 30. He is the love of my life, and he comes from an Arab Muslim family. From the very beginning, they welcomed me in as if I had always belonged to them. His parents treated me like a daughter. His sisters included me in everything. I had never known that kind of warmth before. My own family, well, let's just say complicated, is the polite way to put it. I'm basically an only child. My half-brother, from my dad's side, is much older and lives in Japan. Even though we aren't especially close, he still called me before the wedding just to congratulate me. That meant more than I can put into words because my parents, the people who should have been most excited, weren't supportive at all. When I first told them I was marrying my husband, they criticized everything. They didn't like his background, his religion, his culture. They acted like I was making some reckless mistake. It wasn't until I told them point blank that I'd cut them off if they didn't stop pushing me that they finally backed off. Even then, their support felt fake. I knew going into the wedding that I couldn't count on them for anything but drama. The ceremony itself was beautiful. Perfect, even. My husband's family brought so much joy and love that I almost forgot my own baggage. For a while, even my parents seemed happy. They smiled, they mingled, they even looked proud. I let myself believe that maybe, just for one day, we could all coexist. But then there was my cousin, Mark. Mark is 35, and I don't know how to say this gently. He's a disaster of a human being. He has 3 kids with 3 different women, none of whom he supports. His father, the grandfather, is the one sending money, so those kids don't go without. Mark hops from woman to woman, job to job, always chasing something but never taking responsibility for anything. He's a user, a manipulator, a charmer when it suits him, and a parasite the rest of the time. Everyone knows this. Everyone, except his mother, my aunt, who thinks he's perfect. To her, the sun shines out of him. She begged me to invite him to the wedding. Begged. And, against my better judgment, I said yes. I didn't want to start drama before the wedding even happened. I told myself, it's one day, how bad could it be? That's the mistake I'll never stop regretting. The reception was nearly over when it happened. The music was still playing, people were finishing dessert, and I was finally breathing easy, thinking we'd made it through without disaster. Then I heard a scream. Not the happy kind. A real scream, the kind that makes your blood run cold. I turned, and my heart dropped. My youngest sister-in-law, Layla, who's just 19, was backed against a wall, her eyes wide with terror. My cousin Mark stood in front of her, looming over her, dripping wet. She was clutching an empty glass in her hand, trembling. My other sister-in-law rushed to me and blurted out what had happened. Mark had cornered Layla, blocking her path, so she couldn't get away. He told her she was too pretty to be hiding under that thing, pointing at her hijab. He said she was wasting her perfect face by covering it. Layla had tried to ignore him, but then he reached out and actually tried to tug her hijab off her head, saying he wanted to see her beautiful hair. That's when she screamed and threw the water in his face. I froze for maybe half a second, and then I saw red. I rushed over, and Layla was visibly shaking, tears in her eyes. My cousin was laughing it off, smirking like it was all some big joke, while my sister-in-law clung to me, still trembling. I don't think I've ever felt rage like that in my life. I told him to get out. My exact words were, "You're done. Get the hell out of here. Now." He tried to laugh it off, called me uptight, and said I was choosing strangers over my own blood. That only made me angrier. I told him, loudly enough for everyone nearby to hear, that if he didn't leave immediately, I would have him dragged out. At that point, people had started to gather, including members of my husband's family who were horrified at what happened. When Mark realized I wasn't bluffing, he sneered something about me being a traitor to my family and stormed out. Security made sure he didn't come back. I went straight to Layla and hugged her, promising her she was safe, promising her I'd never let anyone treat her like that again. But of course, my family wasn't on my side. My aunt started screaming at me, saying I humiliated her son. My parents joined in, telling me I should have handled it discreetly, that I overreacted, that I brought drama into my own wedding. Since then, the phone calls and messages haven't stopped. According to them, I embarrassed the family. I should have ignored Mark's behavior. I should have protected him instead of humiliating him. They've twisted everything to make me the villain. The scream had already ripped the air apart, but the seconds afterward felt even louder, like the silence between thunder and lightning. Layla was trembling so hard I could see her shoulders shake, clutching the edge of her hijab like it was the only thing keeping her anchored. My heart ached for her. She had survived so much already. Years ago, a terrible accident had left her with scars you can't always see. Since then, being around men, even the safe ones like her own father and brother, had been an uphill climb of patience and trust. For her to be cornered, mocked, and grabbed like that at my wedding of all places? I can't even describe the fury that ripped through me. My older sister-in-law, who is a force of nature when it comes to protecting her siblings, was already up in Mark's face. She's tiny, but she's fierce, and she wasn't backing down. "You don't ever touch her," she snapped, jabbing her finger into his chest. "Do you hear me? Ever." Mark smirked like it was funny, like this was all some big misunderstanding we'd laugh about later. But the look in Layla's eyes told me everything. It wasn't funny. It was terror. And then, before it could escalate further, my father-in-law stepped forward. He didn't shout. He didn't push. He simply placed himself between my SIL and Mark, lifted his chin, and said, in a voice so calm but so final it sent chills down my spine, "It is time for you to leave my son's wedding." There was no room for argument in his tone. It was quiet, steady, and absolute. I thought that would be it. I thought Mark would slink away, humiliated, and we could turn back to Layla, wrap her in safety, and let the night heal. But no, because that's when my aunt came storming in. Her heels clicked against the floor as she charged over, face twisted with outrage. "You can't kick him out," she shouted, pointing at me like I was the one who had done something wrong. He was just joking with her. She's being too sensitive. Just joking. That's always the excuse, isn't it? A woman says stop and the man says relax, I'm joking. My aunt's words scraped across my nerves like nails on glass. Layla was still trembling, visibly shaken, and my aunt, her own family by marriage, was calling her too sensitive. At first he was complimenting her. When people didn't seem convinced, it shifted to he was just joking. The goalposts moved with every sentence out of her mouth. Before I could even form words, my own mother chimed in. My mother. "I'm sorry, but she's right," she said, crossing her arms like she was laying down some final verdict. "This is a huge overreaction. Mark didn't mean any harm. That's just how he is." That sentence, "that's just how he is," was the moment something in me snapped. My mother, the woman who raised me, stood there watching my new sister shake like a leaf after being harassed and defended the man who did it. I looked at Layla again, her face pale, her hands trembling, her whole body pulled in on itself like she was trying to disappear. The girl who had worked so hard to feel safe again, who had just trusted me enough to let me into her family, was being torn down by the very people I shared blood with. Something broke inside me. A switch flipped, and I couldn't hold it in anymore. I turned to my aunt, my voice steady, but laced with fury. "No. He needs to leave. Now." Her mouth dropped open like I'd just slapped her. Then her face twisted into rage. "You are not going to disrespect your family like this," she hissed. Disrespect? That was her word? Her son had cornered a 19-year-old girl, mocked her faith, tried to rip the scarf from her head, and she thought I was the one being disrespectful? I stared her dead in the eye. He harassed my sister-in-law. He put his hands on her hijab. He tried to take it off. He humiliated her. And you're standing here defending that? If that's what family means to you, then maybe I don't want to be part of it. My aunt gasped like I'd stabbed her. My mother tried to cut in. Don't talk to her like that. But I was done. Done being polite. Done tiptoeing around their excuses. Done sacrificing the safety of people I love to protect a cousin who had never contributed anything but shame. "This is my wedding," I said, my voice shaking now, but with anger, not fear. "My husband's family is my family. And if you think I'm going to let anyone, hurt them in front of me, you're out of your mind." By then, people were watching. My husband had come up behind me, his hand gently but firmly on my back, grounding me. My sisters-in-law were with Layla, shielding her. My father-in-law hadn't moved an inch. He was still standing tall, silent, a wall of calm authority. And Mark? He finally realized the tide had turned. His smirk faltered. He muttered something under his breath about me being a traitor to my family, then stormed out, dripping water as he went. The doors closed behind him, and the whole room seemed to exhale. I turned back to Layla, who was still shaking, and I wrapped her in a hug. She clung to me like she was holding on for dear life. "You're safe," I whispered to her. "You're safe, I promise." And then I just let her have it. "My family," I snapped, my voice shaking but loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "You don't get to lecture me about family. This right here is exactly why your own is broken. This blind worship of your useless, good-for-nothing son is the reason you have one child who ruins every event he attends and another who hasn't spoken to you in 5 years. And you dare wonder why your own daughter went no contact? It's because of this. Because you will always choose him over the people he hurts. So yes, he is leaving, and you can leave with him if you want." It was like the air got sucked out of the room. The entire area went dead silent. The music was still playing faintly in the background, but no one was dancing anymore. All eyes were on us. I could feel my heart pounding in my throat, my chest heaving, my hands shaking with adrenaline. My aunt's face crumpled, and then she started crying, loud, theatrical sobs that drew even more attention. She spun around dramatically and stormed out, dragging her son behind her. My cousin didn't look at anyone. He just followed, muttering under his breath. And then, as if on cue, my parents trailed after them. But before they left, they each turned back to me and gave me the look. The one I've gotten my whole life. The "you are a disappointment" look. Cold, sharp, dripping with judgment. It hit me like a slap, even though I should have been immune to it by now. When the doors finally shut behind them, I stood there, shaking, in the middle of what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. My father-in-law quietly gestured to the DJ to turn up the music again, trying to reset the mood. My sisters-in-law guided Layla to a seat and wrapped her in love and safety. My husband was instantly at my side, his arm around me, whispering, You did the right thing. You protected her. I'm proud of you." And I clung to that because already the guilt was sinking its teeth in. The night ended, but the fallout was only beginning.
"My phone has been a nightmare since."
Texts from my parents, long paragraphs full of venom. They called me cruel, vicious, ungrateful. They accused me of weaponizing a family tragedy. Their words, because I brought up my aunt's estranged daughter in the heat of the moment. They told me I broke my aunt's heart, that she's been crying nonstop and sending them messages about how I destroyed her on the most important day of my life. And maybe it shouldn't get to me, but it does. Because here's the thing, Mark was 100% in the wrong.
There's no question about that.
He harassed my 19-year-old sister-in-law, mocked her faith, put his hands on her hijab, and terrified her. He deserved to be thrown out, and I don't regret that for 1 second. I've already cut him off. I don't want him anywhere near me or my husband's family again. But the part one keep replaying isn't Mark. It's me. It's the words I threw at my aunt. I don't regret defending Layla, never. She was scared out of her mind, and I will always pick her over him. But I can't stop hearing myself bring up her daughter. I know that's her sore spot, the wound she never healed from, the child who went no contact years ago because of this same toxic dynamic. And I used it like a weapon. I twisted the knife. And that's where the guilt sits, heavy in my stomach. It's like I dropped a nuke to win a fistfight, and now the whole family is radioactive. My husband keeps holding me when the guilt eats at me. He tells me over and over that I wasn't cruel, I was honest. That my aunt needed to hear it, even if it burned. That my parents' silence all these years is the reason Mark keeps getting away with hurting people, and I simply refuse to be part of it anymore. That maybe the explosion was inevitable, and I was the one who finally lit the match. And I want to believe him. Because when I think about Layla's face that night, her wide eyes, her shaking hands, her voice trembling when she said, "He tried to take it off," I know I'd say it all again if it meant protecting her. But late at night, when the phone buzzes with another message from my mother about how I've betrayed them, or another guilt-soaked paragraph about how my aunt is brokenhearted, the doubt seeps in. Maybe I did go too far. Maybe I could have defended Layla without dragging my aunt's other daughter into it. Maybe I didn't need to scorch the earth to draw the line. And yet, part of me wonders if that's exactly why it needed to be said. Because the truth is, my aunt has always shielded Mark, no matter who he hurt. My parents have always backed her, no matter how wrong he was. And the result? A cousin who ruins every event, leaves chaos in his wake, and still gets to walk away without consequence. A daughter who had to cut her own mother out of her life just to breathe. Maybe what I said was harsh, but it was also true. And maybe, finally, that truth was louder than their excuses.